Hey, Samuel, you know, I gave your mom and dad a big gift for you, which I hope you'll be able to look through soon. It's letters and materials and books and pictures from Switzerland, because the Giudici family was a very important family in this part of Switzerland. It's called Ticino. It's the Italian part of Switzerland. And they had a large inn for over 300 years, a very important hotel in Giornico, which is where there's a bridge to cross a river that runs down in between these huge mountain ranges. In 1148, way back when, one of your ancestors, 1448, one of your ancestors um, led a battle that defeated an invasion from Italy. And the battle is still online. All the information about the Battle of Giornico is still online. And after that, that's when the name Giudici started, because the family became the governor of this part of Switzerland. It's a beautiful place. And I'd like to tell you about the visit that I made to that place and hope that this inspires you to look through the papers. Some of these letters are from the late 1600s on the original paper, and there's a lot of information about the family in there. I hope you'll have a chance to check it out and see what a wonderful family the Giudicis are. I went back there. I was living in Japan, and I saved up enough money to travel to Switzerland. And I traveled with a group of tourists to France, and then from Paris went directly to Zurich, which is one of the biggest cities in Switzerland. And it was quite a flight. I've been over 24 hours with no sleep. I took the flight to Zurich, and I arrived in Zurich, and I'll tell you about that, my stay in Zurich, in a different video. But then the next morning, I took the train south into the Italian part of Switzerland, into Ticino. And it was about a 4 hour trip. I had a very nice trip. And when I got there, it was Christmas morning. So I didn't time this very well. It was Christmas morning and everything was closed. There was nobody open, nobody around to ask or to get me to my family members, because I thought that there were probably at least a couple of cousins living there in Giornico, although most of the family had gone. And so I was lucky. I wandered into the little post office, and there was a telephone there to call in case of emergency. So I called because this was an emergency for me. I traveled a long way, and I didn't know where I was or where to go. Or, of course, I don't speak Italian, so that was a problem too. So I was very lucky because it was a young postmaster who answered the phone, although it was Christmas morning. And he answered the phone, and when I started trying to ask him in English, he said, "Sorry, I don't speak any English, but I speak Spanish." So he and I started communicating in both of our schoolboy Spanish vocabularies, and without getting much communicated. But he said, "Wait there, I can tell you something about your family." So in a few minutes, he showed up, and he invited me. Apparently, the only place that was open on Christmas morning was for the local people in Giornico to celebrate Christmas. So we went to a little cafe or restaurant, and we had some red wine. Although it was early in the morning, we had some red wine and also some panettone, which is a big sweet bread, egg bread with dried fruit in it. And he started telling me that I had a couple of cousins. There were many people named Giudici there, but there was only a couple of them that he knew of I was related to. First he took me to my cousin Attilio Giudici's home. And they explained to me between them that this was it was a huge stone home in the downtown, right in the center of Giornico. And he explained to me that the family had lived in this stone home for over 300 years. And it was an old, very, very dark inside, and it was, and it, he was telling me a little bit about how he was the last direct descendant of Samuel Giudici, um, who was my great grandfather, who had come to America in the late 1800s with all of the papers that you have now. So these papers have traveled a lot. And he told me, do you want to see the hotel that our family ran for 300 years? And I said, of course. And it was right across the road. It was very close. So if you ever go there and you see the hotel, it's called Casa Stanga. If you ever see the hotel, directly across the road from the entrance and a little bit to the left, you'll see this big old stone house. And that was Attilio Giudici's home, who he lived with his German-Swiss wife. And this home is beautiful and it's huge. And the hotel is amazing. It's a very big structure. And it was obviously very important around there. And I learned that this had been, after it closed down as a hotel, another cousin of mine who had died after that, who was a historian, had turned it into a regional museum to show the history and the culture of that part of Switzerland. And so it had been maintained very well. And I could go into the hotel, the Casa Stanga, and look around and see these very old rooms. And on the outside, the walls were covered with big coats of arms, like symbols, like icons of important families. And every family that had stayed at the hotel that came from an important family, their coat of arms were painted on the outside of this hotel. And you can see, if you look up Casa Stanga and Giornico, can look it up on Google, and you can see pictures of these amazing walls covered, the outside walls covered with coats of arms. So I stayed I visited, and I walked through there, and I'm planning on going back again, maybe next year, I'm hoping. But you can go there and see the amazing places. And I found papers showing that the emissaries of the Pope had stayed at the hotel in the 1700s. And because the Giudici family was very important in that part of Switzerland, everyone knew them. And everyone knew about the history of what they had done. So then I went up the hill, I got some information, and I went up one of these huge mountains, partially up the way, and on the hillside of one of these mountains was the Giudici Castle. It was actually just a stone house, I think, but my mother used to call it the Giudici Castle, where it was the ruins of where our family had lived while they were running this hotel in the 1700s, the 1800s. And just beyond that, there was an important church. There were two big churches. And the main one is a beautiful old church. You should definitely go there. There was a smaller one closer to the Giudici old homestead, where over the altar, Jesus Christ was standing in the middle looking down, and right next to Jesus was the ancestor who had won this battle in the 1400s, Stanga Giudici Stanga. And he had died in the battle, but he had saved Switzerland from Italian invasion. So he's very important. And the people had put him standing right next to Jesus in this little old church. And so I had a wonderful time there. I went back, and thanks to my cousin, another cousin who I met named Giudici, who was a baker, like my great grandfather, Samuel Giudici. Um, so he was a baker, and he took me to a new hotel where they had a club, a little nightclub in the first floor of this hotel, and I was given a room to stay that night. My second night there, I stayed that night in the in this hotel, and the room that I had in was right in front of the room where these girls, the dancers for the nightclub, they had feathers coming out of their head, and they had sequins all over their little skimpy outfits, and they were going back and forth to perform in the nightclub. So that was a very after spending my day thinking about this beautiful the history of the family and all these ancient homes and all of the history, and to be say I was sitting there in my bed saying hi to these pretty girls. Unfortunately, none of them decided to come in and say hello to me, but that's okay. And so I stayed for 2 days in Giornico, and picked up what I could. And this was Christmas, the day after, and then Christmas Day and the day after, but it was very mild because these mountains on either side, it's in a valley that's so deep, and the mountains are so high on either side that it was very comfortable. All I needed was a light sweater. I didn't need any kind of coat or even a jacket walking around. So I wandered around and explored the town and took some pictures. And many of those pictures are in the materials that I gave your mom and dad. So you can see the snapshots that I took in the late 1970s when I was visiting Giornico, and hoping to show it to you someday. And spent a couple of days, and then I took the train back north to Zurich, and because I had to go back and meet my group in Paris again. Um, uh, so anyway, it was a wonderful time, and you can hear about the Swiss people that they're very standoffish and they're not very comfortable. But I think that you'll find in Giornico the people are Italian enough there, so that they'll welcome you and show you around and give you a feeling of how important and how wonderful this family, the Giudici family, was. So check it out, and we can talk about it again sometime soon when I see you, and we can go through the Giudici papers again. But enjoy it, and it was great talking to you about this. Thanks so much, and remember, you're Samuel Thomas Lowe, but you are also named for Samuel Giudici, my grandfather and great grandfather. Take care, Samuel. Bye.